Okay, so here's the Unit 3, Part 2 review. We're going to do one page at a time, separate videos so that we do not overwhelm the computer with the amount of time that it may take. Okay, so looking at number 1, a backpacking club can average 2.5 miles per hour. At that rate, how long will it take them to hike 8 3/4 of a mile? So they can average 2.5 miles per hour. How long will it take them to hike 8 3/4 miles? So we have a couple of different things on our sheet to get our thought process in line. What kind of equation is it? Well, if we're averaging 2.5 miles per hour, so the first hour is 2.5, second hour is another 2.5, and we have a total of 8 3/4, that means that we are dividing. So 8 3/4 divided by 2 1/2. Estimation, they're asking you just to round your numbers so you can get a general idea of where your answer should fall. So I'm looking at 8 3/4. Well, think about your picture. 3 out of 4 are colored. So am I closer to the 8 or am I closer to the 9? I'm closer to the 9. And for 2.5, am I closer to the 2 or closer to 3? Well, I'm right in the middle. So if I'm right in the middle, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the 3. And I know 9 divided by 3 is 3. So that may not be our exact answer, but that's going to give us a general idea of what our answer should be around. So let's set up the work. 8 3/4 divided by 2 1/2. So go back and think about your dividing fractions. First, we need to get it out of mixed number. How do we do that? We're going to lasso, multiply, and add. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 3 is 35. Denominator stays the same. 2 1/2, lasso, multiply, add. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Denominator stays the same. Now remember, for division at this step, we actually need to keep the first the same, flip the second, and multiply. I can see that I can go ahead and reduce before, because I know that the 2 and the 4 both share a 2, so 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2. 35 and 5, I can see that 5 would go into both of them, so 5 divided by 5 is 1, 35 divided by 5 is 7. Then I'm going to go ahead and multiply the top times the top, bottom times the bottom. I get 7 over 2. That is an improper, so I need to get it out of improper. I divide 6. So my answer is 3 1/2, or if I want to write it like a decimal, it'd be 3 5/10. So I go back and answer my question. How long will it take them to hike? It's going to be 3 1/2. And that, if you go back up to your estimation, is pretty close. Okay, number 2. The average rainfall in Houston, Texas is 44 3/4 inches. The annual rainfall for Las Vegas, Nevada is 4.2 inches, or 4 2/10 inches. How much more rain does Houston get each year than Las Vegas? Okay, so in Houston, Texas, we average 44 3/4 inches. For Las Vegas, Nevada, it's 4 2/10 inches. How much more should be a good indication of what we're doing. Does Houston get than is another Las Vegas? Okay, so how do I set this up? I'm going to take my 44 3/4, and I'm going to subtract. How did I know to subtract? How much more is an indicator for subtraction? 4 2/10. Now those are two different types of numbers. I want them to be the same. So I can either convert the fraction to a decimal or the decimal to a fraction. I'm going to convert the fraction to a decimal. If I converted that, it would be 44 and 3/4 is a benchmark. You should know that that is 75 hundredths. Okay, so when I estimate, I'm going to find out, well, what is it closer to? 44 and 75 hundredths. Is it closer to 44 or is it closer to 45? Because we're only 25 away from 45, we would round that to 45. If we said 44, we would have to go back 75 hundredths. Minus 4 2/10. Well, we'd have to go 2 back to 4 or 8 forward to 5. So we're actually closer to the 4, which means my answer is going to be around 41. So we'll see if that works. Okay, so my work, again, I'm going to use decimals. And I'm going to subtract 4 2/10. Now remember, rules about subtracting decimals. First, line up the decimals like buttons on a shirt. Then add zeros to make them look the same. Now I'm ready to subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5. 7 minus 2 is 5. 4 minus 4 is 0. Bring your 4 down. And my last step, do not forget the decimal. Okay, so my answer is 40 and 55 hundredth inches. Okay, number 3. Henry the handyman has to repair an opening in the floor. The boards he will be using are 3.5 inches wide. The opening that needs to be repaired is 12 1/4 inch wide. How many boards are needed to repair the floor? So we've got the boards he's using are 3.5 inches wide. The opening that needs to be repaired is 12 1/4 inches wide. We're looking for the number of boards needed to repair the floor. So our equation is going to be division, because how I know that is I'm thinking, okay, this one board is 3.5 inches wide. The second board is 3.5 inches wide. My total is 12 1/4, so I have to figure out how many boards. So I'm splitting up my numbers trying to figure out how many would go into 12 1/4. So that is division. That looks like this: 12 1/4 divided by 3 1/2. For your estimation, I need to think 12 1/4. Well, if I think of 1/4, I only have one shaded out of 4, which means that I'm closer to 12 than I am to 13. 3 1/2, again, I have one shaded out of 2 that's directly in the middle, so I'm going to go up. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. So our answer should be around the area of 3. Okay, so dividing mixed numbers, set it up. First thing that we have to do is get them out of our mixed number lasso, multiply and add. 4 times 12 is 48, plus 1 is 49. Denominator stays the same. Lasso your 3 1/2, multiply and add. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Denominator stays the same. This is still division. Now when I'm dividing fractions, I remember that I'm going to leave the first the same, flip the second, and multiply. This is where I'm going to reduce if I can. I notice that between 2 and 4 they both can share a 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Looking at 7 and 49, I notice that they both share a 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 49 divided by 7 is 7. My answer is 7 halves, which is actually the same answer as our first one. So if I divide it out, I get 3 1/2 or 3 5/10. My answer is I'm going to need 3 1/2 boards. Okay, this is the end of the video for the first page. If you need to check your second page, go ahead and find the next video for Unit 3 Part 2 review, page 2.